Amber Heard's old dog smuggling scandal has finally come back to bite her. According to reports, she is now the subject of investigation by an FBI-backed probe regarding allegations of perjury. She is still expected to go to trial next year with Johnny Depp, but this investigation may cause her some problems. It looks like the legal battle is not over for Amber Heard nor Johnny Depp. Previously, after Johnny Depp claimed that Hollywood had been boycotting him since Amber's accusations were made public, a Virginia court judge finally handed him a big win. Back in April, Amber already tried to do a bit of a Hail Mary when she countersued for $100 million. Her hope was that Judge Penny would dismiss the case simply based on Johnny Depp losing the libel trial in the UK. Unfortunately for Amber, this motion was denied along with her request to dismiss Johnny's case against her. However, now she is facing investigation in regards to her and Johnny Depp's infamous 2015 dog smuggling scandal. You remember the one where they had to make that really awkward apology?
I am truly sorry that Pistol and Boo were not declared. Protecting Australia is important.
Declare everything when you enter Australia.
Amber had violated Australia's biosecurity codes by not declaring the Yorkshire Terriers that she had brought into the country. Then prosecutors dropped 2 more charges on Amber for illegally importing the terriers while Depp had been filming the 5th movie in the Pirates of the Caribbean series. The conviction on the illegal importation counts could have possibly sent her to prison for up to 10 years. Additionally, false documents can charge carriers a maximum penalty of a year in jail and a fine of more than 10,000 Australian dollars. However, Magistrate Bernadette Callahan only sentenced her to a 1-month good behavior bond, which means that she will have to pay a $1,000 fine if she commits any further offenses in Australia. However, that being said, this case has now resurfaced and Australian investigators are looking into the claims made by Amber and Depp a lot closer. Kevin Murphy, Depp's former estate manager, even alleged that Amber had forced him to lie under oath after she knowingly smuggled her dogs into Australia. At the trial, he said, "I also explained to Ms. Heard several times the fact that trying to take the dogs into Australia without completing the mandatory process was illegal and could result in very harsh penalties, including euthanizing the dogs." The Daily Mail was also the first to report about how the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment has opened this criminal probe into the case and enlisted the help of the FBI. The FBI's role in this matter will be to track down witnesses in the US, according to the report. A source close to the investigation said that the charges of perjury could still be on the table for Amber, adding, "She could just ignore the whole thing and never go back, but a huge number of movies are shot in Australia, including Aquaman. Alternatively, Amber could go back there and face her detractors. That's often her style. It's pretty evident by now that she's not one for backing down in the face of legal threats." And as I mentioned, this new criminal probe will be interviewing witnesses in the US, which includes Kevin Murphy. In the report, they state, "Murphy has now been interviewed at length by Australian investigators and has provided a lengthy witness statement and a trove of emails allegedly implicating Heard. Sources close to the investigation believe she could be weeks away from being hit with charges of perjury or subornation of perjury, which involves inducing someone to provide false testimony." Johnny Depp has been handed a massive win in court as a judge agrees to give him access to Amber Heard's phone records. In doing this, Johnny Depp's legal team hopes to prove that Amber Heard faked her injuries when she took this alleged incident to the police. Right now, Johnny Depp is waging a $50 million libel suit against Amber Heard, and in doing so, his legal team claimed that she had doctored the photos presented to police. The photos in question are the ones where she appears to have 2 black eyes, which she claims were a result of a 2015 incident with Johnny Depp. Depp's lawyer, Benjamin Chew, said in a court filing, "Ms. Heard's counsel has repeatedly used these phony photographs at deposition." And back in 2019, Amber had written an op-ed piece for the Washington Post where she spoke about domestic violence. Despite not mentioning Johnny Depp's name in the article, she later claimed that she suffered 2 black eyes, a broken nose, and a busted lip after Depp attacked her in Los Angeles. However, Depp's lawyer countered and said that when the LAPD had arrived at the home, they found no injury upon Ms. Heard and saw no sign of disruption in the penthouse. Chew also alleged further in his filing, "Ms. Heard and her friends then fabricated photos that she used to obtain an ex parte TRO, temporary restraining order, and a $7 million divorce settlement, which Ms. Heard falsely testified in London she gave to the ACLU and more scandalously to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles sick children with cancer." The LAPD also disavowed the photos that were submitted because they said that it did not depict what they had actually saw. Now, this Virginia court is allowing Depp's legal team to get an expert that can actually take a look at Amber's phone and try to find evidence of any photo tampering. The earlier images that were submitted could also not be properly verified because they came without any metadata, which made it harder for their expert Brian Newmeister to verify the details of the photo. Benjamin Chew goes on to speak about this in the court filing and says, "Mr. Newmeister's preliminary investigation shows that a number of the photographs have been run through a photo editing application called Photo 3 that can easily manipulate images such as showing bruises where none actually existed." Back in November of 2020, Johnny Depp lost his libel case against the Sun newspaper in the UK. This court battle was over a disparaging article they printed about him, and in the ruling by Judge Nickel, he said that the Sun had proved their article to be substantially true, which was based on them finding that 12 of the 14 alleged incidents of domestic violence had actually occurred. But in this new finding, Depp's legal team argued that the Sun's own expert had said that the photos presented by Amber were manipulated 3 years after the original incident. He went on to say that this expert had found that the photos were from an iPad Pro 10.5 and were created either on or after October 6, 2018, saying that any editing of the trial bundle versions would have been on or after October 6, 2018. He then claims, "So Miss Heard or someone on her behalf doctored those photographs 3 years later. When that came up in her testimony in London, Miss Heard falsely denied it. In short, Your Honor, without forensic imaging, Mr. Neumeister cannot properly assess or verify Miss Heard's data." There was something else here that he mentioned which also struck me as odd, and I don't know if we've actually covered this before, but Amber Heard appeared on the James Corden show the day after this alleged attack happened. She later said that she wore heavy makeup to hide the bruising, but Depp's lawyer said that Amber was trying to masquerade as a victim instead of the attacker. In this same filing for Amber to turn over her phone, the judge also denied the notion that Depp should have to hand over his phone records and laptop, mainly because Amber Heard's attorney had asked for too broad of a search at the time. Following Zayn Malik pleading no contest in a case against his former partner Gigi Hadid and her mother Yolanda, the singer has now been dropped from his record label. Things are not looking good for the former One Direction star, and the drama keeps getting worse. According to a new report, Zayn has just been dropped from his record label RCA following drama in his personal life. The star pleaded no contest to 4 criminal offenses after he was accused by Yolanda of striking her, a claim he is still adamantly denying. Regardless, he was sentenced to probation and anger management classes for harassing Gigi's mother Yolanda. A source close to the situation also told The Sun magazine that he has been increasingly smoking extremely strong cannabis, with a senior music source adding, "A lot of people have tried desperately to get Zayn's life and career back on track, but nothing has worked. So many people who have worked with him have just given up. He's almost impossible to control or guide. A while ago, his label quietly decided it was the end of the line for their relationship, and now this." Court documents also said that during that poor interaction that he had with Yolanda, Zayn reportedly told her to stay away from his daughter. He then allegedly pushed Yolanda into a dresser, causing mental anguish and physical pain. At the time, Gigi was working in Paris, but is believed to have overheard much of this interaction on the phone. Zayn, I guess, called her when Yolanda showed up at their home with a security guard. He then allegedly screamed at her on the phone to defend him against her mother. In a statement, Zayn spoke about the situation and said, "I had agreed not to contest claims arising from an argument I had with a family member of my partner's. Despite my efforts to restore us to a peaceful family environment that will allow for me to co-parent my daughter in a manner she deserves, this has been leaked to the press. I am hopeful, though, for healing for all involved with the harsh words shared, and more importantly, I remain vigilant to protect Kai and give her the privacy she deserves." Friends of Zayn are also becoming concerned after he was dropped by his record label RCA. They said that his regular use of cannabis has been something that record label bosses are having a problem with lately. A source told the press that he has reached the end of the line with his record label the same way that he has with so many others, including managers, agents, and label executives, adding, "Loads of people believed he had potential. He's a talent with good looks and lots of fans, but he's just too much. Unfortunately, everyone who has tried to rein him in over the years has found it too much. He's so determined in his behavior, some fear he won't be satisfied until his career prospects are totally finished." The source also suspected that the reason for Yolanda and Zayn to be arguing so much could be the fact that she is under suspicion of leaking the news about Gigi's pregnancy. Zayn and Gigi were leading a pretty quiet life on a ranch, but Yolanda lives in the next ranch over. Zayn apparently is content with living a quiet life working on music, but Gigi was wanting to go back to work, which meant parties and more red carpets, something that Zayn was trying to avoid. A friend of Yolanda's also refuted the claims that she had leaked news over her daughter's baby and told the press, "The suggestion she might have leaked details about her daughter's pregnancy is laughable given what she saw behind the scenes. Far from someone at odds with Zayn, she has spent many years being supportive of him and Gigi and welcomed him into their family. She deserves a lot of credit." Although I believe the friction that these two have is probably due to the fact that Yolanda had a very different future in mind for her daughter. She apparently suggested that the pair do a reality TV show, and Zayn, I guess, was horrified by the suggestion. Zayn just prefers to be low-key, but Yolanda saw his reluctance as something that was holding Gigi's career back in show business, which just goes to show that their relationship probably had a lot more to do with advancing careers than love. The Ace family's Austin McBroom has been exposed for cheating yet again. If you recall, Tana Mojo called him out back in June, and now Instagram fitness model Noelle Leva is calling out both Austin and Jason Derulo for sliding into her DMs. Noelle has become popular on social media for her fitness motivational content, and while appearing on the podcast called Raw Talk hosted by Bradley Martin, Noelle revealed some pretty crazy information. Although once we found out who it was, I suppose it wasn't that crazy to believe. Both have a history of cheating. In the episode though, they're all talking about Noelle's dating life, and Bradley mentions that he has personally gone through all of her DMs and then went on to say, "I looked through all of her DMs. She has got DM'd by everyone you can think of, all blue checks." Then she is asked to expose some of the people that are sliding into her DMs, and as she tries to get them to change the subject, Brad blurts out Austin's name. Then Noelle reveals that another person was Jason Derulo. For starters though, Austin is currently married to former Victoria's Secret model Catherine McBroom, and together they have 3 children. As for Jason Derulo, he's a father as well. He and his wife, actor Jenna Frooms, just had a baby boy. So there are big accusations coming from this podcast that impact actual families. However, if you followed any of the other scandals regarding the Ace family, then you'll know that this isn't Austin's first rodeo. Prior to this, he was accused by fellow YouTubers Jake Paul and Tana Mojo of cheating on his wife. One afternoon, Tana posted a series of tweets and claimed that Austin had been cheating on Catherine repeatedly. In one tweet, she says, "One time Austin McBroom was cheating on Catherine with a random woman and she left a lipstick in his car. Then I was sitting with Jake in the car and he gets a FaceTime. It's from Austin, crying, and Catherine yelling, 'Is this Tana's lipstick?' Austin says it is. It wasn't." She then goes on to say, "But I lied for the sake of the children and said it was, shaking my head. Happy fight day, Team Bryce on God." Although it didn't stop there, she also went on to accuse him of hiring 4 of her friends to be nannies or masseuses around the house so that it was easier to cheat while Catherine was away. So far, Austin nor Jason have responded to those earlier accusations made by Noelle, but in that last case with Tana's accusation, she actually got a response from him. Austin claimed that the lipstick found in the car belonged to Erica Costell. He goes on to say in his response, "Capped the biggest clout chaser of them all, and it was actually Erica Costell's lipstick, dummy. I was taking Jake and her back to Jake's house. This lame ass lie ain't gonna save the attention that your little boyfriend Bryce is about to get for his whooping." Many people on the internet were in shock though from those earlier claims and took their confusion and frustration to the comment sections. One user commented on Austin's Instagram and said, "And Catherine McBroom will still stand by her husband. At what point do you step away? Cheating accusations seems like he can be a real dick to her, put his family in debt and lost their forever home. What will they have left to leave their kids but a bunch of judgments? I hope one day she wakes up." With others just commenting on Jason Derulo's page that his wife deserves better. Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, has been up to some very strange things recently, from wearing a variety of creepy masks to sporting a bizarre new haircut that people are speculating was cut by one of his children. Either way, we're going to be breaking down all of Kanye's latest stunts that prove that he has officially lost it. An LA judge on Monday approved Kanye's request to legally change his name from Kanye Omari West to just Ye, no middle name or last name even, just Ye. Judge Michelle Williams Court said in court documents, "There being no objections, the petition for change of name is granted." And within the petition, Ye had cited personal reasons for the name change after previously announcing his intentions to change his name back in 2018. Not too long after news broke of Ye's name change, photos of him wearing strange prosthetic masks started to pop up on every news outlet. One was described as looking like a Caucasian woman, which he wore for his cab ride out to the JFK airport in New York. He had changed out of his cloth mask to put on the Halloween costume, but I hope he removed this mask before entering the airport, otherwise he probably would have had a lot of issues with security. This is actually the second time in the last few days that he was spotted wearing a Halloween type mask instead of the traditional cloth mask. I mean, this pale greenish blue mask that he was wearing happened while he was in Italy over the weekend, but it's definitely less scary than the first one. Just the other day, he was strangely photographed in a McDonald's in Sweden and shocked fans when he showed off his new haircut. And of course, social media had a lot to say about it. However, it might not all be that bad. The hardcore fans showed up to leave comments praising Ye for his new look, with one predicting a possible trend even happening here and commenting on the photo, "Watch people start cutting their hair like this now." Although Ye is definitely known for trying to start new trends, I feel like there is a much funnier reason for his hair looking like this, such as the reason that one comment suggested when they said, "Kanye let his kids cut his hair again." And even if this was done on purpose and Ye gives a meaning behind it, I still can't unsee the potential option of North cutting his hair while he's trying to sleep. And because he's Ye, you know that he would just try to pass that off as some sort of fashion statement. The reveal of this new haircut came after he was spotted by the paparazzi wearing those rubber masks on both sides of the Atlantic. So of course many fans began speculating that he was simply using the mask to cover up this haircut, or because he probably just wanted to travel incognito, but unfortunately that didn't really pan out that well for him. This isn't his first attempt either at trying to wear a full face mask while traveling or attending events. Back in July, he attended a Balenciaga show and he wore a full face mask that appeared to combine the Harley Davidson logo with a panther mixed in. Then of course you had the variety of full face masks that he wore for his Donda album listening parties. And I believe that most people who look at Ye doing things they would never do automatically assume, well, that man must have lost his mind. But to be real, his life just isn't normal to begin with, so of course he's going to be doing things that make him look like he's lost his mind. I mean, to him, he believes that he's a genius, and judging from the numbers, a lot of other people also believe that. A Santa Fe district attorney has just said that criminal charges are on the table following an investigation into the Alec Baldwin movie set shooting that took the life of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza. Recently, Santa Fe district attorney Mary Carmack said in a statement that criminal charges could be filed in the shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. The fact that she is saying criminal charges are on the table means that the ongoing investigation must have found evidence that would suggest this is the best course of action. During an interview with the New York Times, Carmack said that her office isn't ruling anything out when it comes to filing criminal charges. She went on to tell them that the investigation is focused on what kind of projectile was actually fired from the prop revolver that Alec Baldwin was handed. Along with that, they need to narrow down who could have loaded the prop with live ammunition. Further police investigations show that there was an enormous amount of bullets confiscated on the set, and so they are trying to determine what kind that they were. When it comes to Alec Baldwin, Los Angeles trial attorney David Ring said that it's likely he won't face charges for his role in this accident because he had been told that the weapon was cold and therefore safe to use. However, he could still be held criminally liable because he was a producer on the film, which means he does bear some responsibility when it comes to the safety of the cast and crew on set. A producer is the person responsible for finding and launching a project. They also arrange financing, hire writers, hire a director, and hire other key members of the creative team, plus they oversee all elements of pre-production, production, and post-production right up until the film's release. So when a lot of union members walked off the set citing issues with safety, he must have been informed and had some say in picking their replacements. I know they were scrambling to find people last minute so that production could carry on as normal, but at some point there was someone that had to approve the people responsible for this happening. According to the affidavit that was filed by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, it was revealed that Baldwin had been handed the prop revolver by Assistant Director Dave Halls. Dave was the one who called out that the weapon was cold, letting Baldwin know that it wasn't loaded with live or even blank ammunition for that matter. According to Dave, his defense for this was that he just did not know that it had been loaded with a live round, and then he shifted blame to the movie's armorer Hannah Gutierrez. Hannah had laid out 3 revolvers and Dave just walked up, grabbed one, and took it to set for Alec. This is why assumptions can be so dangerous. Dave assumed that Hannah had done her due diligence as head armorer and checked over everything. Hannah, who I believe was also new to this type of a job, must have also assumed that if she had made a mistake somewhere along the line, someone would tell her. But we'll have to wait for more information from this investigation though to see if someone had accidentally placed the loaded prop next to the other ones and Hannah just didn't notice, or if this was an actual mistake made by her in the first place. Either way, I do think some blame will have to fall on Assistant Director Dave Halls, who is the actual person to hand the loaded prop over to Baldwin. According to that affidavit, the movie had already been plagued with issues before this though. There were at least 2 previous incidents where one of their prop weapons had misfired, and as I mentioned, these safety concerns caused union crew members to walk off the set in protest. I also need to make a correction with my language here as well. I keep saying that the prop weapon was loaded with ammunition, but I forgot to mention that the district attorney also stressed that it was incorrect to refer to it as that. This was a 100% real weapon and was simply placed in the same vicinity as the prop ones that they were using for the film. Court documents also reveal that police have confiscated a number of items from the set that included 3 black revolvers, ammunition boxes, a fanny pack with ammunition, several spent casings, 2 leather gun belts with holsters, articles of clothing, and swabs of what was believed to be blood. The missing pieces and central mystery to this investigation is finding out what kind of projectile was fired from the weapon and how it got there in the first place. However, investigators are warning the public to not be expecting those questions to be answered anytime soon. Juan Rio, spokesperson for the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department, said in a statement, "We need to be diligent about the there be charges ultimately filed, they are able to uphold those in court." On top of all of that though, it has also been reported that Halyna Hutchins' family is considering filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the producers of the film. According to TMZ, with the insurance policy that's connected to the movie, this means that the family could get a maximum of $6 million. However, if Joel Souza, who was also injured in all of this as well by the same bullet, if he decides to file a lawsuit, that $6 million gets split between him and the Hutchins family. Kylie Jenner's new swimwear line is getting a ton of backlash from her own fans right now, with many taking to TikTok to complain about getting scammed. Recently, the 24-year-old billionaire business mogul Kylie Jenner released her new line of swimwear and was quick to promote it on her social media, resulting in many styles already selling out. Unfortunately, a lot of people are having buyer's remorse right now after receiving their orders. So far, TikTok specifically has been flooded with videos of people giving Kylie swimwear a bad review. Many are upset over the poor quality of the pieces and even are describing them as so thin that you can practically see through it. One reviewer said that she shelled out $250 on 2 sarongs, a pink 2-piece, and a yellow cutout monokini, but then said, "I would show you these, but I literally can't because they are just not it." A lot of people took this opportunity though to promote brands that are much more reliable, brands that don't sell you paper-thin material, brands like Target, for example. Going back to the 2 sarongs though for a moment, they were described as being too long, shapeless, and having far too much material. It basically looked like an oversized scarf. According to this TikTok user, the quality of the one piece was equally awful, if not more. She says in the video, "Don't even get me started on the quality of this one piece." And at the end of her review, she ended up giving Kylie Jenner's swimwear line a 2 out of 10, specifically noting that the sizing was just not good, but on the bright side, she did like the adjustable bottoms. Many other people on TikTok reviewing this new swimwear line had similar experiences, with others expressing disappointment in the sheer material and the overall sloppy sewing. One woman said in her review, "You need to be waxed, lasered, and if you have any hair down there, it's gonna show." I feel like this is sort of thing begins to happen to anyone that tries to do too many things at once. It's not like Kylie is on the ground floor of the factory checking every pair to make sure that it's top quality. She most likely just has a team of people that handle that for her. Although I do appreciate apps like TikTok for being able to warn other people who would be interested in getting the product, but they want that honest review before they just jump into it. Kylie Jenner, Travis Scott, and Drake are getting a ton of backlash right now after it was revealed that they went to an after party following the tragic incident that took place at Astroworld. According to them, they were completely unaware of what had happened until they were notified at the after party. Kylie and Travis were allegedly partying at Dave & Buster's in Houston at a party hosted by Drake following the horrible event that happened at the Astroworld Festival. According to reports, this is where Travis also was notified that 8 people had lost their lives during his show and hundreds more had been injured by a crowd surge. TMZ reported that Travis immediately left the party after finding out. One source goes on to say, "Travis didn't know the severity of the situation when he arrived at the party. As far as timing, this remains consistent with the fact that no one, including the police, had publicly confirmed the gravity of the events that had taken place." The party that everyone went to afterwards was apparently a pre-scheduled event hosted by Drake, as I mentioned earlier, who also allegedly had no idea that anything awful had taken place during the festival. Another source close to this after-party celebration said that most of them did in fact know that people had died during the show, but that they didn't take it seriously because they assumed that it had something to do with drugs. They go on to say, "Everyone knew people died, but it wasn't taken that seriously because some thought it was drug deaths they didn't realize. But celebrities, they should have just had grace and canceled everything." Shortly after all of the news began to come out regarding the horrifying details of the event, Drake broke his silence on the matter and said, "I've spent the past few days trying to wrap my mind around this devastating tragedy. I hate resorting to this platform to express an emotion as delicate as grief, but this is where I find myself. My heart is broken for the families and friends of those who lost their lives and for anyone who is suffering. I will continue to pray for all of them and will be of service in any way I can. May God be with you all." So far, concert goers have filed 17 lawsuits that allege Travis and Live Nation were solely responsible for the deadly crowd surge. One of the lawsuits specifically is from the family of 9-year-old Ezra Blount. Right now, Ezra is in a medically induced coma as doctors are working to fix the trauma and damage done to his brain. In charge of this legal matter is famed civil rights attorney Ben Crump. Ben also worked as an attorney for George Floyd's family, and in the lawsuit he writes that Ezra was kicked, stepped on, and trampled as he watched other people pick up unconscious bodies of friends and strangers and surf them over top of the crowd, hoping to send them to safety. Ezra was sitting on his father's shoulders during the concert to make sure that he was up and out of the crowd. However, during the crowd surge and chaos that ensued, Ezra's father was overwhelmed by the crowd and ended up getting knocked over. Ezra then fell to the ground from his father's shoulders and was trampled by other attendees before someone finally rescued him and got him to the hospital. According to the lawsuit, his injuries will severely affect his ability to grow and thrive. The more personal accounts that we hear from people that attended the event, the more disturbing this whole situation becomes. There's no question that medical staff and police were not prepared for what went down in Houston. A woman named Madeline Eskins, who attended the concert and confirmed with the press that she was an ICU nurse, said that after being crushed by the crowd near the front of the stage, she fell unconscious. She was then apparently crowd surfed out of the packed area and woke up with a water bottle in her lap and no clue as to what just happened. As she looked around, she claimed to have witnessed other people being carried out with their eyes rolled back and bleeding from their nose and mouth. A security guard even asked her to help them resuscitate other people who had been pulled out of the crowd. She goes on to say in a post about the event, "Some of these medical staff have little to no experience with CPR, didn't know how to check a pulse, carotid, or femoral." She said that some people who had pulses were getting unneeded CPR, but that there weren't enough people to do CPR on individuals that were actually pulseless, adding, "The medical staff didn't have the tools to do their jobs, and despite the crowd around us trying to get someone to stop the concert, they just kept going, even though Travis acknowledged that someone in the crowd needed an ambulance." So my question is that after witnessing all of this chaos and seeing an ambulance literally drive through the crowd of his festival, how in the world can Travis Scott say that he cares about his fans, or that he didn't know the severity of the situation until he got to that after party? He shouldn't have made it that far before someone notified him of what was happening. All of those people were there to see him perform, so in a few words, Travis could have controlled that entire crowd and just calmed things down. He stopped the show a few times, noticing when someone had passed out, but I just don't get how you can see that happen and then go on to tell people who want the show to stop that, quote, "You know why you came here." He then told them he wanted the crowd to make the ground shake, which must have just been the most terrifying thing in the world to hear if you're being knocked onto the ground and just can't get back up. My heart really goes out to these poor EMTs that had to continuously work on trying to revive people in this chaos and by themselves in most situations. Another TikTok user who claimed to be a medic at the event said that he was on his way to assist another medic and he had to actually go out of his way to save other people because they were just passing out left, right, and center. Anyone who has performed CPR knows that it gets tiring, so that's why there should always be a team of 2 people. That way you can switch back and forth and really assist each other in saving a life. But that wasn't an option at this moment, and now we are seeing the tragic results. Travis Scott has finally broken his legal silence following the tragedy that took place at Astroworld, but it was not the response that many were hoping for. Scott has gone into full denial mode, and he's not alone. Live Nation is also trying to deny the allegations against them as well. On Monday, Travis Scott was referred to by his real name, Jacques B. Webster II. So fancy. And on that day, he also responded to 11 lawsuits that put him as the main defendant regarding his concert in Houston that resulted in 10 people losing their lives. People magazine, along with a few other news outlets, were able to actually get a hand on 6 of the 11 responses filed, and they said that all of them were nearly identical. Within the filings, Travis and his company have generally denied the allegations made in the lawsuits and then added that they respectfully request that the claims against these defendants be dismissed with prejudice, and that these defendants be granted such other and further relief both at law and in equity to which they are entitled. His company that I'm referring to is Cactus Jack Records, which is being represented by law firms O'Melveny and Myers, as well as Yetter, Coleman, and Tribble, in more than 200 lawsuits that have Travis as the defendant. Rolling Stone was also reporting that Live Nation and its subsidiary Score More have also denied the allegations, as well as the Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation that owns Energy Park, where the festival took place. But despite denying allegations, they did not file for their dismissal like Travis tried to do. Live Nation has been particularly scrutinized because of how big they are when it comes to producing live events. Live Nation is one of the largest show promoters in the world, so if they don't get held accountable for this, it could set an awful precedent. We saw many videos from that evening, but one in particular was especially disturbing. There was a video of a young woman who climbed up onto the side of the stage and was desperately trying to tell the cameraman to stop the show. She repeatedly said that people were losing their life in the crowd, and all he did was swat her away as he continued to record Travis Scott's performance. Despite chants coming from the crowd of people wanting to stop the show, Travis carried on for another 40 minutes before the show was finally shut down, and within that time frame, he and Drake are said to have actually amped up the chaos that was already overwhelming the crowd. After learning about what happened hours later, Kylie Jenner quickly published a statement where she expressed her grief over the lives that were lost and then tried to make it clear that she and Travis had no idea of what was going on at the time. However, city officials are still investigating where the problem started in the crowd that soon turned to pandemonium. Houston police is also putting most of the blame on Travis, though, after footage emerged of Houston cops just casually filming the show during what they later called was a mass casualty event. At one point, he is even heard saying, "Who asked me to stop? You all know what you came here to do." And concertgoer Billy Nasser said that he became frustrated when the concert continued despite the obvious chaos that was happening on the ground. He went on to tell CNN, "I wanted the music to stop and I wanted everyone around me to realize what's going on, but people didn't have much self-awareness. Kids were just going crazy and partying for the festival, and they weren't actually paying attention to the bodies dropping behind them." In addition to making that video apologizing to fans for what happened, Travis also released this statement that says, "I'm absolutely devastated by what took place last night. My prayers go out to the families and all those impacted by what happened at Astroworld Festival. Houston PD has my total support as they continue to look into this tragic loss of life. I am committed to working together with the Houston community to heal and support the families in need. Thank you to Houston PD, Fire Department, and Energy Park for their immediate response and support. Love you all. Live Nation, who also hosted the event, put out a statement as well that said, "Heartbroken for those lost and impacted at Astroworld last night. We will continue working to provide as much information and assistance as possible to the local authorities as they investigate the situation." And according to an investigation that was done by the Houston Chronicle, though, they described how organizers were concerned prior to the event about adequate staffing and were worried about last-minute poorly trained hires that were made security guards. Billboard also reported that there is a potential for all of these lawsuits to be consolidated into one massive case. In a court document released by Billboard, it states, "Transfer of all of these lawsuits to a single pretrial judge for consolidated and coordinated pretrial proceedings will eliminate duplicative discovery, conserve resources of the judiciary, avoid conflicting legal rulings and scheduling, and otherwise promote the just and efficient conduct of all actions." This dismissal could also be Travis feeling a little salty about his offer to pay for funeral expenses being declined. If you recall, more than half of the victims' families turned down the offer and said through their attorneys that they would be continuing with legal action instead. Well, it looks like we have some more bad news for Travis Scott today. After it was announced that he will be facing a $750 million lawsuit, I honestly don't know how he's going to recover from this. This massive $750 million lawsuit was brought forth by more than 125 fans and includes the family of one concert goer who lost their life at the festival. Within the lawsuit, various people are mentioned though. We have Travis Scott, Drake, Apple, and Live Nation all becoming the targets of this lawsuit. The suit was filed by a Houston attorney named Tony Busby and is just the first of the many legal troubles that are headed Travis Scott's way. This suit places the blame of what happened during Astroworld on Travis and concert organizers who are being accused of negligence and failing to properly plan for this concert, train security, and overall host a safe event. This seems like a lot of money, but this $750 million will be used to cover both physical and mental health injuries as well as the loss of life. Attorney Busby spoke with the press about this big new lawsuit and said, "No amount of money will ever make these plaintiffs whole. No amount of money can restore human life, but the damages sought in this case attempts to fix, help, or make up for the harms and losses suffered by these plaintiffs. Nothing more and nothing less." Now, almost immediately following the event, it was also reported that Travis and Live Nation offered refunds to concert goers, but the lawsuit suggested that this was a transparent and grotesque effort of the defendants to limit their liability after the fact. If you've been watching our updates, then you'll know that 10 people now have lost their lives as a result of the Astroworld tragedy, with the most recent victim being a 9-year-old boy. Law enforcement is still continuing their investigation into what exactly caused this mass casualty event, but many attendees claim that after a crowd surged to the front, people became trapped against barriers and on the ground. Travis Scott is still maintaining his defense that he did not understand the severity of the situation while he was performing. Not to mention, there were also several Houston police officers that were spotted near the front of the stage just calmly taking photos and videos of the performance right when the chaos started to happen. As I mentioned earlier, within this $750 million lawsuit are the details of what happened to concert goer 21-year-old Axel Acosta, who lost his life at the show. In a statement to the press, a member of Tony Busby's legal team said that Acosta's loss of life was needless and was the result of gross negligence. The attorney then alleges that Acosta had gone into cardiac arrest after being crushed by the crowd. They go on to say, "When Axel collapsed, he was trampled by those fighting to prevent themselves from being crushed. As he lay there under a massive humanity dying, the music played and streamed on for almost 40 minutes. The complaint then goes on to add, "Axel Acosta loved and adored Travis Scott and the other performers at Astroworld. The feeling was not mutual. Certainly neither Travis Scott nor his exclusive partners, streaming service, record labels, handlers, entourage, managers, agents, hangers-on, promoters, organizers, or sponsors cared enough about Axel Acosta and the other concert goers to make an even minimal effort to keep them safe." The real target of this lawsuit, though, are the people who stood to make a profit from Astroworld, which means Apple Music, Epic Records, and many other corporations are also going to be sharing the legal blame in a court of law. In addition to this massive lawsuit, there have also been 36 other lawsuits that have been filed against Travis Scott and the concert organizers. Kylie Jenner is back in the news, and it's because her fans are furious over how fast she has moved on from what happened at Astroworld. Kylie has yet to make an actual Instagram post, but her stories have been quite active as of late. Travis Scott, if you recall, was spotted near Kris Jenner's home playing golf with Mark Wahlberg, Michael Jordan, and Kris Jenner's boyfriend Corey Gamble. Although amid the massive lawsuits he's facing, he did not look very present. At least that's what we gathered from looking at the photos that were posted. I mean, currently he has been hit with over 300 lawsuits, so yeah, that might distract anyone from having a good time. These lawsuits also include the ones that are seeking $750 million in damages, as well as the one that's for $2 billion. However, included in a lot of those are also Drake, Live Nation, and Apple. What is angering Kylie Jenner fans, though, is that she recently posted a short Instagram video showing off her new Christmas tree. And reportedly, the tree is decked out with decorations worth over $1,000. The issue people are having is that the father of her children could be on the hook to pay billions of dollars in damages to the victims of his Astroworld festival. In the short video, Kylie also featured a 3-tier electronic wood Christmas story pyramid that was handcrafted by a family-run company called Muller. This wooden Christmas pyramid also has roots in German folklore. Just a fun little side fact for you. But Travis apparently flew to Southern California to spend the Thanksgiving holiday with his family, including Kylie Jenner. But since he was not spotted in this Instagram story, many are wondering if he left right after Thanksgiving to perhaps go back to Houston and deal with the many lawsuits ahead. Shortly after the incident, Travis Scott and Kylie released statements, but instead of them being viewed as apologizing for their actions, their statements were interpreted as being just insensitive. Scott tried to make amends with his angered fans and the city of Houston, really, by saying that he would cover the funeral expenses, but everyone in Travis Scott's inner circle right now is definitely feeling the heat. Before this Christmas tree Instagram story, Kylie previously posted to her stories to wish Hailey Bieber a happy birthday. That IG story was her first real moment of breaking her silence after the statement that she released that I mentioned earlier. A source also went on to tell The Sun that after the catastrophe in Houston on November 5th, Kylie decided to delay the launch of her holiday makeup line, a launch that has been dropped on November 19th for the last 4 years. Travis Scott's attorney, Edwin F. McPherson, also has been going to bat for Travis and said that there has been way too much finger pointing when it comes to this lawsuit. McPherson even took a shot at the Houston police chief for contradicting what he said. Scott's attorney tells the press, "There's been multiple finger pointing, much of which has been by city officials who have sent inconsistent messages and have backtracked from original statements." Houston Police Chief Troy Finner was quoted in the New York Times as saying, "You cannot just close when you got 50,000 and over 50,000 individuals. We have to worry about riots when you have a group that's that young." Yet just a short time later, Chief Finner states the responsibility to stop the show falls on Travis. Despite what Travis Scott's attorney said earlier, though, as with many lawsuits, these put the blame on Travis and the festival organizers, especially for failing to take even the most basic of safety precautions. In one lawsuit it says, "Defendants egregiously failed in their duty to protect the health, safety, and lives of those in attendance at the concert, including but not limited to the failure to provide adequate security personnel to implement crowd control measures, proper barricades, and the failure to provide a sufficient amount of emergency medical support." So far, there has also been no post made to the Instagram pages of Kylie's various companies, and following the tragedy, her only statement was an Instagram post where she said, "Travis and I are broken and devastated. My thoughts and prayers are with all who lost their lives, were injured, or affected in any way by yesterday's events, and also for Travis, who I know cares deeply for his fans and the Houston community. I want to make it clear we weren't aware of any fatalities until the news came out after the show, and in no world would have continued filming or performing. I am sending my deepest condolences to all the families during this difficult time, and will be praying for the healing of everyone who has been impacted." An Instagram account is claiming to be Tristan Thompson's new baby mama, and needless to say, Khloe Kardashian is not happy about it. Recently, the couple made headlines after news broke that a personal trainer by the name of Marley Nichols was pregnant with Tristan's baby. After making the news public through her Instagram story, she also shared some leaked text messages between herself and Tristan. According to People magazine, Thompson is also being sued by Nichols for child support and pregnancy-related fees after she says they conceived a child together in March. Nichols apparently gave birth to the baby boy last week, according to her representation. In one of the text messages from Tristan to Nichols, he says, "You know how I feel. My feelings haven't changed at all. Won't be involved at all. By the way, if you think having this baby is going to make you some money, it's completely wrong. You are aware that I'm retiring after this season. So in terms of support, it will be whatever is required monthly for someone who's unemployed. It's Texas, so it will be only a couple $100s. So you better off taking this $75K I'm offering, because you won't get nothing near that with having a kid with a father who's unemployed. All you will have is a baby with a father who has zero involvement with the child and a few $100s of child support a month." He even just recently had this lawsuit sealed after requesting a gag order to prevent Nichols from engaging with the media any further. However, Khloe Kardashian knows about the baby and she was not pleased to hear about it. A source exclusively told Us Weekly amid the scandal, "This is a very sad time for Khloe. She really loves Tristan and still held a candle for him. She thought he might have changed his ways. Khloe now knows that Tristan was unfaithful to her when they were back together. In court documents obtained by the press, Thompson admitted to cheating on Khloe with Nichols and that he ordered genetic testing back in July before filing an amended petition in Texas last month, once again asking for a paternity test. As for the court documents, Marley also claims that her relationship with the NBA star began at least 5 months before his 30th birthday in March and continued throughout her pregnancy. This is Tristan's third child with another woman, and according to People magazine, Khloe has just decided to move on. The source speaking with People magazine goes on to say, Khloe is moving on. Tristan and Khloe have been broken up for a while, and things are okay between them. The insider then added that they both are just focused on co-parenting their 3-year-old daughter. In August, many people were shocked because about 2 months after their other breakup, rumors were circulating again that Khloe was taking Tristan back, and so of course the internet expressed their opinions on how they truly felt about this, with one user writing, "At this point, Khloe Kardashian has no self-worth. Anyway, I can't believe they tagged her in that." However, Khloe quickly responded to that and said, "You're telling me you made an assessment about my life because of a random blog? I think that says more about you than it does about me." And this prompted E! News to report that despite blog rumors, Khloe and Tristan were not back together. A source then added, "They are telling people they aren't back together but have been hanging out pretty often with True. Apparently she wants him around and they talk every day, and despite everything, Khloe has forgiven him for what he's done and would rather just be on good terms with him." Her friends though had apparently been encouraging her over and over again to not take Tristan back after his multiple cheating scandals. They also believe she only remained close with him because she always believed that he would change one day. However, as it turns out, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Kim Kardashian is getting called out right now after posting a video wearing a corset where her waist looks dangerously small. Kim posted a video to her Instagram of her wearing a corset that made her waist look wildly small. In the caption, she explained it was a photo that she took on a special trip to London when she had it specially made for her by Mr. Pearl. She said she wore a similar one to the Met Ball, but it was misplaced, so she flew to London to meet with him. She just had to have it. She finished her caption by saying she is making new looks and can't wait to show us what she comes up with. The post was filled with comments about how she is encouraging an unrealistic and unhealthy body image to her followers, and people were literally begging her to stop. But apparently they were also begging actress Jamila Jamil to speak on it. If you don't follow the actress online, she often talks about the unrealistic body standards that other celebrities promote and how much she does not agree with it. So after Kim posted the video, she finally spoke up about it. She posted a screenshot from Kim's video and shared a very long caption with it. I will give you guys a rundown on what it says because it's pretty long. She started by saying that she received over 1,000 DMs of people asking her to speak on it, and she finally decided to because she thinks it is both damaging and disappointing. She was quick to say she is not trying to cancel Kim, but that she wants people to recognize that this is a ridiculous expectation of women, which is developed by the patriarchy. Jamil said it was irresponsible for her to encourage this impossible beauty standard to her fans who heavily look up to her. Part of her caption got very personal and says, I quote, "Kim, like many of us, has had decades of body image issues and obsession. This has been heavily perpetuated by how much the media scrutinized her and her sisters over their appearances. She isn't actively trying to harm you, she's just so harmed and deluded into thinking that this is what she needs to look like to be special and beautiful, and she's spilling it out onto her following. Is this wrong? Yes, but I'm not sure she realizes that she's doing to others what her idols did to her, in making her think a tiny waist is the key to femininity and sex appeal." Now, in all honesty, this is not the first time someone in Hollywood has posted something like this that showed an unrealistic body frame, but maybe this one is going too far. Jamil also pointed out that we as followers and fans play a part in this, which I thought was a really interesting perspective. She said, "The smart thing to do is to protect yourself. You have the power, you control every market. You choose what and who is trendy. Unfollow the people who tell you things that hurt your self-esteem. Don't let the debris of their damage spill out onto you. Unfollow people and brands that don't make you feel powerful and happy and grateful for what you have. The patriarchy wants us to focus on our weight instead of power, equality, and psychological freedom. F anyone who encourages this. Block, mute, delete, repeat." I honestly get what her point is with this. Kim's post received so many comments, and even if they're negative, you're still giving her social media engagement, and it's just feeding into the publicity. By following her, liking pictures, commenting on posts, honestly, that is all part of the hierarchy. Now, I also do agree that I don't think Kim is purposely trying to harm people. I just don't think she sees the corset video as something harmful. As someone who has personally struggled with body dysmorphia, I really do see how this could be harmful to other women. It's not just Kim though, it's honestly all of the Hollywood media that can make people feel that you're as beautiful as the celebrity you adore if you look the way they do. Like growing up, I remember all I did was look at magazines and I would compare myself to the girls in the magazines, because to me, from a girl, it was like, I can only be in the magazine if I look like the girl in the magazine.
Khloe Kardashian is being harshly criticized over a selfie that she recently posted to Instagram. Yes, I'm about to do an entire IO about a selfie. When I first saw Khloe Kardashian's selfie where she debuted her new look, as some people are saying, I was like, wow, okay, there's gonna be some backlash. I know this for certain. Her face looked completely different. She looked noticeably thinner and her hair was totally different. She looked amazing though. I'm not denying that. She looked really, really amazing in this photo. But she also looked unrecognizable. I knew that there was gonna be backlash. Like I waited 15 minutes and then all of a sudden all of those like exposing celebrity Photoshop accounts started posting side-by-sides of her. I knew it. And I knew I was gonna talk about it this week on IO. Here are the side-by-sides. Khloe Kardashian selfie next to what she looks like when she's photographed by paparazzi and red carpet photographers. That's different. She looks different. That's all I'll say. I'm gonna say more, but anyways. Part of me was like, okay, maybe she got like a ton of work done. Maybe she has been working out a lot and she lost a bunch of weight. She does look noticeably thinner in that photo, and losing a ton of weight would make your face look different. I mean, look at Adele. Look how different she looks after she lost all that weight. I'm not sure that losing all that weight would totally change the shape of your jaw though. Like it'll definitely change the shape of your squishy here, but not the literal jawline. You can't shave off your jawbone. I think you can only shape it to look a little bit more, refined. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert on plastic surgery by any means, but I'm pretty sure they can't get rid of your jawbone. There was also very obvious Photoshop in this photo that was pointed out by social media users. If you look at the necklace she's wearing, she accidentally blurred out one side of it when she was editing, so her necklace only has one string. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that Khloe Kardashian is an avid user of Photoshop. All the Kardashians are. She uses it a lot more than everyone else, I feel like. I honestly think that she might do this because of insecurity. I mean, look at the rest of her family. The Kardashians are the ones setting the modern beauty standards for women, but they all use Photoshop. I feel like she feels like she has to use editing apps in order to keep up with her sisters. It's heartbreaking though, like it's sad that she feels like she has to do that. But I mean, it's like she gets backlash if she does and she gets backlash if she doesn't, so. Now, I will be honest, when I first saw this photo, there was a lot of backlash in the comments. It seems that Khloe has been deleting the negativity and all that's left is pretty much people just praising her, including Tristan Thompson and her mother. Here's what I could find on Twitter. First of all, Khloe Kardashian gave herself an entire new face. She took the touching up to an entire new level. Second of all, she forgot to Photoshop her necklace chain too. Girlie, you ain't fooling anybody. I know the Kardashian family is 50% Photoshop, but that Khloe Kardashian picture is f***ing scary, dude. Does Khloe Kardashian have someone to just Photoshop her pictures into the next dimension, or... That one was a little funny. Khloe Kardashian, you really don't need Photoshop, sweetheart. Okay, call me crazy, but I kind of feel like Khloe Kardashian and Tana Mongeau are using the same editing apps. Maybe not lately. Tana Mongeau's been pretty good about it lately. But remember when Tana posted that photo of her from the red carpet and she looked completely unrecognizable? Here's a screenshot of the photo that she posted next to a side-by-side shot of the real photo that was taken by Getty Images photographers. Kind of looks like Khloe Kardashian's recent selfie, doesn't it? Like they're both kind of missing part of their jaw. Anyways, just my opinion. I sort of feel like all of them are using like special apps that you can get in Korea or something like that. This kind of thing isn't uncommon for social media users in like Asia. They've been doing it for a really long time. It's just like, it's crazy to see how drastic it is.
Madonna is being called a hypocrite by fans after she was exposed for traveling to 5 countries in the last 3 weeks in the middle of the second wave of the deadly coronavirus pandemic. The situation's been made worse by the fact that she posted a video naked in a bathtub in March of 2020, calling the coronavirus the Great Equalizer. But since the star is jet-setting around the world, while most people are struggling to pay their bills, it shows that we are not all equal in the fight against coronavirus. So the Daily Mail just released that Madonna visited 5 countries in the last 3 weeks, clocking up a massive 11,707 air miles, despite travel bans and lockdowns for most of the world. As for her travel itinerary, she started out flying from LA to London on December 24th. Then she flew from London to Egypt days later on December 28th. Then flying to Malawi and Kenya after, staying a few days in between for each. All this flying is said to be for her lavish winter trip, celebrating the holiday season and the new year abroad. The 62-year-old singer has also been kept company by her family members and boyfriend, Malik Williams, including 5 of her children. It's also believed that her personal photographer, Ricardo Gomez, was also flown out to capture the holiday as well, with all of them getting around on her private jet. And if you're wondering how we have all this information about where she's been and who she's with, well, she's not hiding it whatsoever, and she's posting about her lavish trip constantly on her Instagram. The craziest part is that most of her fans seem to be fine with all the traveling. And although there are some hate comments on some of her posts, the vast majority of comments are positive. Not sure if that's because she's been deleting comments or blocking the criticism. Who knows? Critics of the singer have also been bringing up her bathtub video that she posted in March of 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. In the very strange video, Madonna is naked in a milky bathtub and talks over a piano, saying, quote, "That's the thing about COVID-19. It doesn't care about how rich you are, how famous you are, how funny you are, how smart you are, where you live, how old you are, what amazing stories you can tell." Adding, quote, "It's the great equalizer, and what's terrible about it is what's great about it." Finishing off the video saying, quote, "Like I used to say at the end of Human Nature every night, we are all in the same boat. And if the ship goes down, we're all going down together." But at that time, Madonna fans did not feel as positively about the video as she hoped. And negative comments calling out the singer flooded in, like, quote, "Sorry, my queen, love you so much, but we're not equal. We can die from the same diseases, but the poor will suffer the most. Do not romanticize nothing of this tragedy." Another said, quote, "If the ship is going down, do you really think we're going down together while you're in your bathtub having people working for you to be there? I love you, my queen, but things outside your mansion are very different from what you think. Stay safe and be a little more empathetic to the less privileged ones." And it seems like the backlash was too much for her to handle, as the video is now deleted off of her Instagram. And even though we are singling out Madonna with this video, we are well aware that she is not the only celebrity traveling unnecessarily during this time and taking advantage of her celebrity status to legally skirt around the quarantine rules. And that's why I want to ask you guys your thoughts on celebrities and even regular people traveling during the pandemic. Because even though it is definitely wrong, there's legally nothing stopping them from doing so, right? So at this point, should we be mad at the celebrities or lawmakers? I think we can be mad at celebrities for being hypocrites, but we should also take note that we are all locked down in our cities, but there's nothing preventing people who are traveling unnecessarily from spreading the virus and the second strain to our cities, when the vast majority of people, I believe, are following guidelines and isolating themselves. I don't know, I guess that's my little theory on things. However, with the new wave of restrictions that are coming, thankfully they are kind of locking down air travel some more, so I don't think celebrities will kind of be able to get away with this sort of behavior for much longer, hopefully, because, you know, it's the senseless traveling from city to city, country to country, whatever, that is really, I think, fueling this pandemic even more. Also, let me know if there are celebrities who are traveling to more countries than Madonna, though. I think there could be some, but I think that 5 countries in 3 weeks is probably, you know, some sort of record, even for a celebrity. I don't think I've heard of someone traveling so much, or at least not publicly documenting it. Like, the fact that she's posting it all over Instagram, it's just like, girl, why? Go on your trip, and literally no one would say a word if you just didn't post it. It's the posting part that really gets to me for these influencers. It's like, you can do anything, honestly, and no one would even know about it. But you're like tattletaling on yourself. It's crazy.
Shia LaBeouf has been in the spotlight since he was a kid. At just 10 years old, he started doing stand-up comedy as he sought to be an escape from the hostile environment he grew up in. LaBeouf would then go on to star in the Disney show Even Stevens for 3 seasons, until breaking into the film industry, starring in hits such as Holes, Disturbia, and of course Transformers. And for a while the future for Shia looked incredibly promising. He was an up-and-coming movie star who had been in the spotlight long enough that everyone got familiar with the name and face, and then everything seemed to go downhill fairly quickly. Odds are you've heard about the most recent allegations made against LaBeouf, who is being accused by his ex-girlfriend, singer FKA Twigs, of abuse, sexual misconduct, and more. FKA Twigs claimed during their year-long relationship from 2018 until 2019, LaBeouf would act erratically at times. At one point, he was driving recklessly without a seatbelt on and threatened to crash their car. Another instance saw LaBeouf allegedly slamming FKA Twigs against a car at a gas station, screaming at her and attempting to choke her before she agreed to get back in their car. Sources also claim at one point, LaBeouf told FKA Twigs he would drive around Los Angeles shooting stray dogs dead to get into the mindset of a killer for an upcoming role. Clearly these are not actions of someone who is mentally stable, and to no surprise, LaBeouf has admitted to being unstable in the past, relying on both drugs and alcohol, which he has attended rehab for. In regards to the allegations made by FKA Twigs, LaBeouf released a statement to the New York Times in which he said, I quote, "I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations. I have been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years. I have a history of hurting the people closest to me. I'm ashamed of that history and I'm sorry to those I hurt. There is nothing else I can really say." He then followed up with many of these allegations are not true, but he is willing to hold himself accountable for his past mistakes. Sources are now claiming that LaBeouf is in a 12-step program and is also getting therapy to help with his mental state. The sad reality is many of Shia's issues stem from his childhood trauma, and that have led to him relying on external sources, in this case drugs and alcohol, to cope with his issues. Now with that being said, it doesn't mean we should brush off the numerous allegations made against him, nor should people see this as taking sides. Instead, I think it's incredibly important to look at what led Shia to where he is today, and what needs to happen moving forward to ensure he not only protects himself, but anyone around him as well. And hopefully by sharing this story, it will help encourage those going down a similar path to seek help sooner than later. As previously mentioned, LaBeouf was a child Disney star, and unfortunately we have seen time and time again, they tend to grow up and end up getting into their fair share of trouble. But it seems it was more than just the pressure from the executives, agents, and managers that led to LaBeouf's career and life to get to the point it's presently at. For those of you who have seen Honey Boy, or at least heard about it, then you likely know it was about LaBeouf's childhood, which saw his alcoholic father abuse him. While in rehab, LaBeouf wrote the script as a form of therapy, and would later turn it into a film, which would premiere at the Sundance Film Festival. Aside from being positively received, it also gave the public a look at what Shia LaBeouf's childhood was like, and it was quite sad. The film's director, Alma Harrell, explained to Deadline back in 2019 that filming the movie was tough for him. I quote, "It was so painful. It was probably the longest 19 days of my life. It's been almost a year since we've been to Sundance and put this film out there for people, and it feels shorter than what it felt to shoot this film. Every day was like breathing in pain and breathing out love and trying to get through it." Someone who saw things firsthand clearly saw the pain that Shia was dealing with even as he grew up by telling the story of his life. And still, when asked about the recent allegations against him, Harrell said that LaBeouf's road to recovery is still not an excuse for his actions. And I'd have to agree with him there. Regardless of what someone is going through, your actions can never be justified if you hurt someone else, either physically or mentally. However, it seems this is an incredibly fine line. Because at what point does someone determine whether or not a person's actions can be attributed to their mental state and just their mental state alone? I'm sure there are plenty of people who are defending Shia, saying that due to his childhood PTSD and addictions, he shouldn't be at fault for his actions. But at the end of the day, you do need to hold yourself accountable for your actions, regardless of the situation, especially when it affects other people as well as yourself. In regards to Shia's situation, it seems there are plenty of factors that led to him being the man he is today. For example, while speaking with Esquire magazine, Shia recalled the time he witnessed his mother being assaulted when he was just 9 years old. I quote him saying, "I froze. The man ran out and my mom ran after him. A neighbor came running over. I remember he had a crossbow." Afterwards, LaBeouf remembered his mother talking with police. I quote him saying, "It was the first time I ever heard the word pubic." That's how she described his facial hair. "The next day at school, I told some kid that his hair looked like pubic hair, and I remember getting in trouble. They never found the guy." It's believed this incident, on top of the pressure of being a child actor and of course his abusive father, led to LaBeouf heavily relying on alcohol to cope. In 2014, LaBeouf was arrested in New York after acting out at Studio 54 Theater and was charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, and criminal trespass. Reports claimed he was acting disorderly, yelling, and being loud. Following the incident, he voluntarily sought out counseling for alcoholism. Unfortunately, this was just the start of things to come. In 2017, LaBeouf had a few run-ins with the law, being sued $5 million by a bartender, and getting arrested after being involved in an altercation with an undercover officer. This incident also led to his racist rant being caught by TMZ, which led to LaBeouf feeling like he was at rock bottom. This is what led to him going to rehab, which is where he would learn of his PTSD and write the film Honey Boy. And although it seemed like following his rehab stint, LaBeouf was in a good place, with talks of him opening a free theater school in LA for those in less fortunate situations, unfortunately he would fall back to old habits. It's possible his 2018 divorce from his ex-wife of 2 years, Mia Goth, led to LaBeouf going back to the old habits, led to him being self-destructive and hurting those around him. Given that he would date FKA Twigs shortly after the divorce, it's starting to all make sense. The sad reality with Shia LaBeouf is that until he's willing to help himself, he's never going to improve his well-being. FKA Twigs initially wasn't going to charge him with anything, but after he refused to seek counseling, her attorneys explained she decided to move forward with the charges. All in all, it's awful that FKA Twigs, along with Sia and the others who have come forward with their own negative experiences in relation to LaBeouf, had to go through what they went through. Hopefully bringing light to the situation will not only make people aware and more cautious of LaBeouf, but will also encourage him to get the help he needs once and for all. As easy as it would be to dismiss LaBeouf and say throw him in jail, the reality is that won't be a solution to the problem. He'll continue with his destructive ways and this downward trend until he's ready to help himself. But until then, unfortunately, we just need to wait and contain Shia, whether that be in a cell or hospital, for him to take the steps to get clean once and for all. It seems he was almost there back in 2018, but unfortunately derailed. I'm not sure what it's going to take this man to change his ways, but I hope he gets the help he needs sooner than later, as I wouldn't want him to hurt anyone else around him or himself ever again.
Hilaria Baldwin has been in the news a ton recently for a reason she wishes that she was not. The yoga instructor, podcaster, and mom has been getting in tons of hot water after she has been accused of faking her Spanish heritage, with sources now claiming she has literally no Spanish heritage and is just a white girl appropriating culture for her benefit. Hilaria Baldwin is currently 36 years old, and up until recently it was widely believed that she was born in Spain, and a big reason as to why was that her own blog said so, with it reading, quote, Baldwin was born in Mallorca, Spain, and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. Then in a 2018 profile with Hola magazine, it describes her as born in Spain, speaking Spanish as her native language. As well, her name is Spanish, so of course people thought this was the case for years. Well, that's until Amy Schumer got involved. And yes, you heard that right. The whole drama actually started with Amy Schumer, as the comedian poked fun at herself by posting a photo of Hilaria with her new baby and joking that it was Amy, with Amy saying in her caption, quote, Jean and I wanted to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Enjoy with whatever family members are talking to you this year. With the whole point of the joke being that Amy wants to look like Hilaria after she just had her baby. But it seems that Hilaria did not take the joke very well and didn't like how Amy's post was actually not body positive, with people taking aim at her because she is skinny. This prompted Hilaria to post a video to Instagram addressing why the joke made her feel bad. But the big story here isn't about what she said in the video, it's about how she sounded. With people shocked, she sounded like a regular English-speaking white woman with no accent, especially because she's had Spanish accents in the past. And then to top it all off, in the midst of that, this tweet went viral, quote, you have to admire Hilaria Baldwin's commitment to her decade-long grift where she impersonates a Spanish person. With the replies to the tweet now being flooded with receipts about how Hilaria is faking being Spanish, like one interview right after she married Alec, where she's clearly speaking in a Spanish accent. Then there's another interview where she forgot the English word for cucumber.
We have tomatoes, we have how do you say it? Cucumber.
Then in an interview she actually did very recently, she says that she moved to America when she was 19 to go to NYU.
And a dresser and,
so you
one
moved here
chair.
With your parents?
No. I moved here when I was 19 to go to NYU.
And now to get to the bottom of what's actually true. So her parents are not Spanish, but they do live in Mallorca, per page 6 since 2011. But before that, they appear to have lived in Massachusetts. And there are receipts that show that her parents seem to just be American with no roots to Spain, other than just vacationing there a lot. Then some people came out of the woodwork to explain that they went to high school with Hilaria in Massachusetts, with her name even being in the alumnus of the Massachusetts high school. Her classmates even exposed her for going by a different name back then, fully a white girl from Cambridge and, quote, did not have her current accent, even adding she went by Hillary back then. Internet sleuths then found her name is actually Hillary Hayward Thomas, and that she grew up in Massachusetts. Another classmate tweeted out, quote, I went to high school with her, genuinely lovely person, I recall, but a fully white girl from Cambridge. As a response to all the stuff coming out about her on Twitter, Hilaria took to Instagram to address everything. In the video, she says she was, quote, born in Boston, but adding she's also a different kind of Bostonian, one who spent, quote, some of her childhood in Spain, saying that she went back and forth from the two places her whole life, and that she's bilingual, and that her accents get mixed up when she's nervous, and it's something she's always been insecure about. As for her name, Baldwin said that she uses the name Hillary in the US and Hilaria in Spain, saying, quote, my parents, they call me Hilaria, my whole family calls me Hilaria, and then eventually she noted she decided to consolidate under Hilaria to minimize any confusion. Then going on to talk about her culture, saying, quote, yes, I am a white girl. Europe has a lot of white people in there. My family is white. Ethnically, I'm a mix of many, many, many things. Culturally, I grew up with the two cultures. So it's really as simple as that. But people didn't take well to all of that, with a lot of comments asking her about her fake accent, and then asking how she can call herself Spanish if she only vacationed there. And then because the response to that was also not good, she posted yet another video, clarifying in the video, quote, first thing I told my husband is that I was born in Boston, she said. Quote, I spent a lot of my childhood in Spain. My nuclear family lives in Spain and has lived there for a long time. Adding, quote, I was moving around a lot, but I came here when I was 19 years old to go to college. Adding, I never said that my mother was Spanish. My family is a big mix of so many different things. And in that video, she really said a lot without saying a lot, but the subtext of it all was that she was mad people were making this into such a big deal and wondering why people have such an issue with her background. But the reaction to the second video was even worse than the last video, with people flat out accusing her of cultural appropriation and saying that it's clear she tried to make a brand for herself as a Spanish person to be more interesting, with people telling her just to admit it instead of playing dumb. As of now, it seems like no one's really believing her responses, and her comment section is basically her fans forgiving her and saying this whole situation is dumb, and then her critics telling her to own up to just being white. Honestly, this whole thing is incredibly dumb, and she's not getting canceled because she really doesn't deserve to be. However, she does need to own up to the truth and stop acting like we're the problem after it said that she was born in Spain on Wikipedia for God knows how long. There's also this gem allegedly from her cousin saying that she's not Spanish at all, which of course doesn't make things any better. A blog post by Hilaria's father was also just discovered, where he flat out writes, quote, my path in life has been heavily influenced by Spanish language and culture, and not because I have an iota of Latin blood in my veins, Thomas writes. The post was published on internationalintegrators.org, a company Page 6 reports he co-founded with his wife, with Thomas writing in the blog post that he became fascinated with Spanish culture at a young age, and he learned Spanish because his father said he would take him to Argentina if he did. Hilaria has not spoken out more since last week, but her family is showing support. Billy Baldwin and his wife Cynthia Phillips sat down with the New York Post, Page 6, on December 29th to talk about the drama, empathizing with Hilaria and commenting their support, saying, quote, this is probably an awkward and embarrassing time for Alec and Hilaria, Billy shared, noting that he's been in touch with Alec throughout the whole scandal, making it clear that he stands with his brother. So that's really all for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts below. This is just a strange one. I guess a good one to hop right into 2021 with. It's just like the weirdest scandal, but we do deserve to know the truth, so I hope she does something about it. Britney Spears is one of the most legendary pop singers of all time, breaking records with her first album and becoming a pop icon basically overnight. But she's had a lot of trouble along the way too, dealing with issues related to substance abuse and mental illness. Britney Jean Spears was born on December 2nd of 1981 in Macomb, Mississippi, the second child of Lynn Irene Bridges and James Parnell Spears. Her other siblings were Brian James and Jamie Lynn Spears, who'd go on to become famous in her own right from the show Zoe 101. And since the family was from the Bible Belt, she was baptized as a Southern Baptist and sang in a church choir as a child. Britney got a very early start to her singing career. At just the age of 8, her mother took her to audition for the coveted Mickey Mouse Club. The casting director found her too young for that role, but encouraged her to enroll at the Professional Performing Arts School, which Britney ended up doing, moving to New York to do so. Britney's first role was the lead role of Tina Denmark in the off-Broadway musical Ruthless. In December of 1992, she was cast in the Mickey Mouse Club alongside tons of notable names like Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, Ryan Gosling, just to name a few. The show ended up getting canceled in 1996, and she moved back to Mississippi for her teen years. But she wasn't satisfied with that and wanted more out of her life. Then in about 1998 to 2000 is when her career really took off with the release of Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again, before Before the songs made a name for her, she was the opening act for NSYNC on their tour. Her debut studio album, Baby One More Time, was released on January 12th of 1999, and it debuted at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 and was certified 2 times platinum, also becoming the biggest selling album ever by a teenage artist. Baby One More Time later received a Grammy nomination for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. The album has since sold 25 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time, and the best-selling debut album for any artist. But as you all know, her glory days did not last too long, and with the massive amount of success Britney was having, she was also susceptible to some huge downfalls, which famously happened in 2006 to 2008. One of Britney's worst scandals was from 2006, when pictures were released of Britney holding her toddler son in her lap while driving, instead of a car seat as he was supposed to be. She got tons of backlash from child advocates, and Britney blamed it on paparazzi. Then in September of 2006, she gave birth to her second son with Kevin Federline, but only a few months later, she filed for divorce. Their divorce was finalized in July of 2007, when the couple reached a global settlement and agreed to share joint custody of their sons. Then in February of 2007, the day after getting released from a rehab facility, she shaved her head with electric clippers at a hair salon in Tarzana, Los Angeles, with her being admitted into a treatment facility because of the incident shortly after. In October of 2007, Spears lost physical custody of her sons to Federline as well. Shortly after, Britney released her 5th studio album, Blackout, in 2007, in record time, considering all she went through just the months earlier. And it got critical and commercial acclaim, still being one of her most popular albums, and my personal favorite of hers. Later on in January of 2008 was when she was forced to hand over her kids to Federline, but she refused, and it took hours as well as the help of police for the custody to pass. She was then hospitalized and placed on a psychiatric hold after she appeared to be under the influence of substances. Based on Britney's mental health state at that time, the courts didn't believe Britney could take care of herself, and she was placed under conservatorship led by her father, Jamie Spears, and attorney Andrew Wallet, giving them complete control over her assets, which we know became an issue many years later. And since about 2018, the main focus of Britney's life has been her conservatorship and getting someone other than her father in charge of it. The hashtag Free Britney movement was started by her fans as they felt she was getting kind of taken advantage of. Something else kind of suspicious was the fact that Britney has been incredibly active in her career since the conservatorship was implemented, leading people to believe that she's her father's workhorse. Until 2019, Spears dropped an album every 2 or 3 years. She also had a 4-year Las Vegas residency, with her final performance grossing $1.1 million, the highest ever recorded for a single theater Las Vegas residency show. Concern rose again in the beginning of 2019 when Britney revealed that she was going to be taking a step back from her career to check into a mental health facility. Then shortly after, a podcast called Britney's Gram released a voicemail from an anonymous source that claimed to be involved in her conservatorship and said that Britney was forced to go into the mental health facility. Apparently, she was not taking her medication, and her father took away the tour as a result. Then around the same time in 2019, Spears' lawyer, Andrew Wallet, resigned as co-conservator, but didn't give a reason for his resignation, giving Jamie full control. Shortly after, she asked a judge to get rid of the conservatorship, but that was denied. After that hearing in May, Britney's manager scared fans when he said that he wasn't sure if she will ever want to work again. In a second hearing in September of 2019, Jamie asked to be temporarily removed as conservator because he had health issues to deal with. The role dealing with her personal life was temporarily appointed to Britney Spears' care manager, but Jamie still had control over her finances. This temporary removal of Jamie also came after an altercation with one of her sons, and the child's dad, Kevin Federline, opened an investigation against Jamie. Around this time in 2019, Britney's mother, Lynn Spears, who was divorced from Jamie, filed a legal motion in 2019 to be involved in the conservatorship process, clearly taking Britney's side in everything. As well, her younger sister Jamie Lynn has also been supporting her sister. Throughout the months of the legal battle, Britney was granted the ability to add more lawyers to her legal team, but Jamie was never removed as conservator, and his time has only been extended further. And after multiple court hearings, the judges extended the conservatorship through February of 2021. As a response, Britney's lawyer made a statement saying, quote, "Britney herself is vehemently opposed to this effort by her father to keep her legal struggle hidden away in a closet as a family secret," with the lawyer adding that the Free Britney movement is far from being a conspiracy theory, and that the social media scrutiny over Jamie's attempts to keep the court's hearings private is reasonable. But thankfully, months later in November, the judge approved Bessemer Trust as a co-conservator of Britney Spears' estate alongside Jamie, meaning for the foreseeable future, he will not have sole control. This whole story is really a wild ride, and it's so sad to see someone who has been as successful as Britney can't be in control of the money that she generated from that success. But we have to trust that the court is doing their job. However, I still don't understand why they won't just give the conservatorship to someone else like Britney wants. Like, it's not like she's asking for it back, she just wants it in better hands. And since it's her money, I really don't see the issue. But obviously it's not my choice to decide. If you watch Keeping Up or are a fan of basketball, then you probably know who Larsa Pippen is, because she's longtime BFFs with the Kardashians and got her name from being married to Scottie Pippen for 20 years. There's also a lot of scandal surrounding Larsa, her involvement with Kardashian men, and the way her kids feel about her recent dating life. So for a quick bio on Larsa, she was born in Chicago, graduated from the University of Illinois with a political science degree, and got married to Scottie Pippen in 1997. And while she was married to the basketball star, she leveraged her position to get on season 1 of The Real Housewives of Miami and on multiple appearances of Keeping Up. Larsa's relationship with her ex-husband Scottie got rocky in 2016 after she was accused of cheating on her husband with the rapper Future. The two left his magazine cover party together, and then Larsa was seen making multiple trips with Future on his private jet. But Larsa denied those rumors, posting online that her split was because she was lonely because Scottie was never around. Then in another tweet she said, quote, "I was married to him for 20 years. I did everything for him and my family. People change, and that's what really happened. Most people can't even imagine being in a relationship for a week, so I know it's beyond imagination. Cheating wasn't the problem." But Future seemed to confirm the cheating rumors in a 2017 song called Rent Money, in which the rapper alludes to sleeping with Larsa. Future appears to diss Scottie in the song as well, with some explicit lyrics. But then her and Scottie got back together in 2017, with Scottie allegedly making it happen by buying her a $4 million ring. But Larsa ended up filing for divorce again in 2018. Since then, she has had quite the interesting dating history, being linked to Tristan Thompson, Harry Jowsey, even allegedly Chris Humphries, and most recently Malik Beasley. And you might be thinking, wait, she dated Tristan, aka Khloe's baby daddy? How did I not know this before? Well, that's because she only revealed it very recently, and a lot of people think that that might be part of the reason that she's not friends with the Kardashians anymore. She spilled the tea when she was a guest on the Hollywood Raw podcast, with her admitting that she dated Tristan right before he started dating Khloe, and she's also responsible for introducing them too. Saying in the interview, quote, "I kind of was seeing Tristan before Khloe or any of them even knew he existed. I was seeing him. I had him come to LA. I brought him to a party Kim Kardashian West had. I introduced him to all of them, and then a week later, maybe 10 days later, he started seeing Khloe," but adding that she didn't really care and she will never chase a man. Then she also admitted that she was the one that broke the news of the Jordan cheating scandal to the family, because she had connections with Jason Lee, who owns Hollywood Unlocked, who broke the story. This was also around the time that Kanye West was on one of his Twitter storms, and he tweeted out just Larsa with a thinking face, basically alluding to something sketchy. After that happened, the world realized that the Kardashians no longer followed Larsa on anything, and there was clearly a falling out because they were BFFs only a few months before, with some people even thinking that Larsa might have cheated with Tristan on Khloe because he was clearly having affairs with multiple women, and since they had already dated, it's not really that much of a long shot. Larsa's response to this was that Kanye brainwashed the family into not liking her, because allegedly Kanye would call her all the time and vent to her in the middle of the night, and she ended up blocking his number because she couldn't take it anymore. But the Kardashians said it was just a simple falling out of touch. But now onto some more recent tea. Larsa Pippen was just spotted out with 24-year-old basketball player Malik Beasley, and there was so much wrong with this. Firstly, Malik actually has a wife at home, Montana Yao, so he was publicly cheating, and he actually has a son with that wife too. Yao responded to the news of the photos by writing on her Instagram, quote, "Wow, I don't even know this man. This is wild, y'all. I'm seeing it for the first time just like you guys." Then adding, quote, "The truth always comes out one way or another." And there are actually reports that she has filed for divorce in the midst of all this. To make things worse, Larsa has a 20-year-old son, Scottie Pippen Jr., who's currently at Vanderbilt trying to follow in the steps of his pro basketball star dad. And since Larsa has dated so many guys in the NBA, usually they're closer in age to her son, that is clearly creating issues in her son's life. And he's no longer hiding it, with Scottie Jr. getting caught liking tons of tweets on Twitter seemingly against his mother's actions. With one reading, quote, "Look at how disappointed in his mama he is. This breaks my heart." And another that read, "I feel bad for Scottie Pippen Jr. Honestly, that young man has to deal with this every other week. Enough is enough." He even liked another that said that his mom was clout chasing, along with him tweeting out in the midst of the scandal, quote, "Focused on myself and my goals. I'm not responsible for nobody's actions. All good over here." And the fact that there's a potential that she could have dated one of his former or future teammates, I'm sure that makes his professional life a little more complicated. And honestly, if she wants to date young guys, she can. Just don't make them basketball players for the sake of your son.